Going to news, first of all, number one, headline, Daily Wire, it says more than 40% of small businesses may close in the next 6 months. Reading from the article a little bit, it says, in addition to record unemployment numbers, experts now predict that a wave of small business bankruptcies is on the horizon, and it could leave the United States with 40% fewer small businesses. The New York Times reports that the United States Chambers of Commerce estimates more than 40% of the nation's 30 million small businesses could close permanently in the next 6 months, a statistic entirely attributable to the coronavirus pandemic and ensuing lockdowns. Now, when you read something like this, this should be headline news everywhere. I mean, this should be the main thing we're talking about right now. 40% of small businesses going under is an absolute catastrophe. And the economy doesn't simply bounce back from that like it never happened. You can't lose 40% of your small businesses and continue along like nothing happened. It doesn't work that way. And it's important to remember that a lot of these big corporations are doing perfectly well through all of this. Are doing even better, some of them. The Walmarts of the world, they're even hiring workers right now, which is good that they're hiring, but because they get to be open. And what's happened in so many cases is that all the small businesses that were already struggling to compete with these big box stores, they've been shut down while the big, powerful retailers get to stay open. And now all of those customers who used to go to the small businesses, now they're all being forced to go to the big box stores. And it's I don't think that this is a coincidence, that it just so happens that the big, powerful corporations with all this money and influence, they get to stay open while the businesses that don't have that influence have to shut. I think it's just an absolute outrage. Number two, New York Times reports a new book in the Twilight series titled Midnight Sun will be told from the perspective of Edward Cullen. So a new Twilight is coming out. And all I can say about that is that it proves without a shadow of a doubt that God's wrath has truly come upon us. Epidemic, murder hornets, now Twilight. Repent ye sinners, okay? This is truly the apocalypse. Number three, CNN reports Joe Biden says his vice presidential committee is looking at more than a dozen women. That's a direct quote. His vice presidential committee is looking at more than a dozen women. And I know what you're thinking when you hear that. If he's just looking, that's at least a little progress. And I agree. So it's good to see this kind of personal growth from the Democratic nominee. Number four, police officers in New York were attempting to make a social distancing arrest a few days ago, and things went sideways, and it was caught on video, as it so often is when things go sideways in these situations. Before I play it, a little bit of context. So apparently, according to the police commissioner, two people were on the sidewalk in New York talking. One was sitting on a milk crate, and another was standing there, and they were, having a conversation. Police approached and approached them because they were violating social distancing. And then supposedly it's also added that they noticed marijuana that one of them had on them. Now, this doesn't make a lot of sense to me because it's being reported as a social distancing arrest. Then the reports also mention that, oh yeah, the cop said there was marijuana. So which is it? Was it a drug arrest or was it social distancing? Or were they arresting them for the social distancing thing and then they found the marijuana in the process? I don't know. So, but that's what leads up to this moment right here.
Y'all go to jail. What's going on? I didn't do nothing. Don't tell me that. I swear I didn't do nothing. Move back. Move back right now. Move the back right now. Move the back. Move the back. Flex it for. Don't flex. You got last stuff too. Look. He ain't even do nothing. He's bald. He ain't even do nothing. He ain't even do nothing. Look. He ain't even do nothing. He ain't even do nothing.
Okay, a lot of additional context is needed here. Obviously, we don't know everything we need to know. And we do know that you can't always take these videos at face value, so that's true. But with that said, a few things I think can be stated with a degree of confidence. First of all, slapping a guy in the face repeatedly is not necessary. Those open hand slaps. You're not going to subdue someone that way. It seems to me just a matter of human psychology. All you're going to do is piss somebody off doing that. So that can't possibly be a legitimate tactic for police to use when arresting someone. There's no way that actually helps in the effort of arresting them. The only reason you slap a guy in the face is if you're mad. It's the same reason anybody else would do it. So that cop was mad. It was very clear in the video. He was ticked off, and he was taking it out on the other guy. But call me a libertarian, I guess, because I have to take the rather radical position that cops don't have the right to physically take their frustrations out on the population. They have as much a right to slap somebody in anger as I do. And I have no right to do that, so neither do they. Now, you could say the other guy should have backed off, he should have complied, whatever, fine. That doesn't mean that the cops can just kick your butt because they feel like it, because they're mad. And if they're arresting you, I mean, the idea, and you see these in the video sometimes where they're arresting someone and they'll just get a few shots in just for the sake of it while they're arresting somebody. How is that acceptable? Second, whether the arrest of that guy was justified or not, I'll tell you right now that these kinds of incidents and these kinds of videos tied one way or another to social distancing enforcement is how you get a complete breakdown of the whole social distancing scheme. It's how you get riots and chaos. So if you want riots, this is how you get them, just like this, with videos of cops beating the hell out of citizens in an effort to enforce social distancing. It doesn't matter that more context is needed. It doesn't matter if there's more to the story. When people start to get the impression that they are living in a violent police state, where if they don't keep a proper distance from someone else, they can get their asses kicked by the cops, that's when the backlash really starts. I mean, these protests we've seen are nothing in comparison to what you get when you have mass amounts of people who start to believe that they're in a police state. And the thing is, we are in a police state. This is just a dramatic illustration of that fact. Finally, just to give you yet another thing to worry about, monkeys on motorcycles are now patrolling the streets trying to kidnap our children. Watch this.
Wait! Hey, mas! Hey! No.
I just have so many questions about this, but I want to focus on just one right now, and that is, why is everybody else so lackadaisical in their response to what's happening? A monkey rode up on a miniature motorcycle and dragged away a child. Why is there not more of a freak out over this event? You see the woman on the bench, I assume that's her kid. She's just watching it happen. Like this is some kind of everyday occurrence. She doesn't even get up. You see that she sits there and watches the kid get dragged away by a monkey. The guy on the balcony is shouting at the monkey, but not with anything near the sort of urgency and surprise that you might expect. Then the other guy comes walking in casually after the monkey already ditched the child. The guy comes walking in, not very, upset, just sort of like, hey, monkey, come on, what are you doing? Enough with the kidnapping, all right? Sheesh. But then I think, I'm actually sort of envious that these people are apparently living the kind of life where a kidnapping monkey on a motorcycle isn't all that interesting. Can you imagine living a life where that doesn't interest you? That's not even anything to talk about. You go to dinner, you sit down at dinner later, and you don't even bring it up what you saw because it's such a normal occurrence. That seems like an exciting life. I'm wondering, what would it take to rate a surprised reaction from the people in that video? Would they need a machine gun wielding flamingo on a pogo stick, robbing a bank. Would that do it? I don't know, but I for one am flabbergasted. That's the only word that would describe what we just watched. Flabbergasting. Hey, you, you right there. Hit the subscribe button right now. Do it right now. I thank you for your compliance. It's somewhat appreciated.